only takes a part of it.
It's just the way that YouTube does it. It doesn't really have to do with like, because obviously we're both on there, but it just takes that one small thing. Hey guys, it's me, Shallow360, and I'm here with Mason still. This is probably going to be our last live stream before he leaves because he's leaving tomorrow and we're doing stuff tonight. So in this live stream, I'm going to talk about something that I'm going to try to be very sensitive about because it's in regards to another YouTuber, especially it's another YouTuber on the platform that does the exact same thing that we do. It's a K-pop YouTuber. And one that I haven't really followed their channel in a very long time. So we're going to talk about Zafra7Love and her video that she posted about K-pop in her life and how it's affected her life. And like I said, because this is a person who is a part of our same community, this is a real life person, this is not a make-believe situation, this is someone's life, I'm going to try to be as sensitive as possible when I'm discussing this. But also, I'm going to be very real about how I feel about things, and so just keep that in mind. It's never my intention to hurt anybody. It is my intention to have real conversations, and sometimes when I'm having real conversations, there is a chance I could say something that gets misinterpreted or something that comes across as insensitive or maybe unkind. So let's start with how this even came up on my radar to begin with. First thing I saw was a post by Meg talking about collecting, and I'm like, oh, this is very interesting because I've been talking about collecting very recently myself. And then after that, I saw a post by Carolyn, and it was a long thread of tweets from Carolyn regarding collecting and kind of, having people reassess their assumptions about what they need to collect, and that you don't have to collect everything, you don't need to compare your collection to other people, all this stuff. And then the very last tweet in the thread was about the fact that this was kind of prompted by Zafra7's video. So I'm familiar with Zafra7Love through Carolyn, actually, because back when Carolyn was first when I first got involved with watching her channel and stuff like that, she would talk about how her and Zafra7Love would exchange Christmas presents or they would exchange birthday presents. And so that is the context under which I got to know who Zafra7Love is. And in the video, the beginning of the video kind of talks about her childhood and how she felt about playing sports. And then that kind of went over into how she felt about going on vacation and the context of what vacations were as a child for her. And then that went over to her starting horseback riding and then stopping horseback riding. And then that's where we get to the K-pop. So according to her, she got into K-pop because she had been a horse rider, but then she quit riding horses because her and the horse that she had were incompatible. And her best friend was already into K-pop, K-dramas, so she kind of fell into it by those means. And then she actively decided to start a YouTube channel and start unboxing K-pop, and her channel became a K-pop channel. And I think it's important to understand that she started her YouTube channel for K-pop. Because all of us start our YouTube channels for different reasons. Like our friend Jade, she started her YouTube channel to put up concert footage from concerts she was going to, and then it morphed into something else. My very first video on this channel, which has since been erased, I actually started talking about writing fan fiction. And then it became an unboxing channel, and now it is what it currently is, a hot mess.
Sorry, I'm gonna laugh.
It's okay. I mean, it's the truth. So, K-pop unboxing was a central part of her channel from the very get-go. She's now been doing this for about a decade. So she's one of the really well-known, has been on the platform for a long time unboxers. And for you guys to understand context here, there aren't a lot of people who've been on the platform doing K-pop unboxings for a decade. There's a handful. There's Zafra7Love, there is Wanhaid, there is Tina Davidson. It is very rare that people stay on the platform as long as those three women have. And even myself, I've now been on YouTube for about 6 years, but I don't even unbox like that anymore. the fact that I'm still here and I'm active is an anomaly, because so many of the people that I started watching unboxing YouTube for are gone. And when I say gone, I don't even mean like they don't unbox anymore. I mean, their channels have been inactive for some of them 3 to 4 years.
Right.
People who I did Secret Santas with over the years are now gone. The very first Secret Santa I did, it was me, Top Man Quan, Juan Haid, Carolyn, and another dude whose name I cannot remember now, but he was a high school student. After we did our Secret Santa, he left the platform. In other Secret Santas that I've done over the years, many of the participants in those Secret Santas no longer do anything. Jonky, which we were just talking about, because she bought all those albums when Bass came out, doesn't upload anything at all anymore. And she was a massive Shawwal collector. So staying on the platform for more than 2 or 3 years, that in and of itself is an achievement, because a lot of people aren't doing it. Either it's because life gets in the way and you have to do other things, or it's because you no longer really like K-pop like that, or maybe you find that the expectation you have for what the YouTube platform was supposed to do for you doesn't actually pan out, and so you lose interest because it feels like you're pouring yourself into something that really isn't fruiting into anything in particular. So I want to put all that out there as context for our discussion. So since I'm not by myself, I'm going to give Mason a chance to speak before I just totally suck the air out of the room.
I'm not sure what to say yet.
So let's start with our initial thoughts when we were watching. And I'm going to be completely candid with you again, because that's what I do. That's how I am. I spent a lot of time watching that video thinking I have said this exact same thing myself more than once. And the first time I had this conversation was years ago about the fact that YouTube and K-pop collecting can be very addictive. And depending on your personality type, who you are, what you like, what you're used to, it can feed into something that's already within you. It's not something that typically gets sparked in a person that they don't have a history with. Most people who get into collecting and hardcore collecting and that kind of thing, it's something that they have a history with. That being said, one of the things that leapt out to both of us as we were watching this is, I don't know if she'll ever watch this video, she probably won't, Tundi, but if you do, I highly recommend you find a therapist, a psychiatrist, a psychologist, somebody to talk to about what's going on with you. Because more than anything, watching that video, it didn't feel like the issue was just K-pop. It felt like it was more.
It felt like when she stopped being as active with like horseback riding and hiking and stuff, and then got into K-pop, it was like this this will fill the void now. And now that the K-pop is winding down a bit, it's a bit like there's a bit of a now what, as though she's waiting for another, as you mentioned before we started, an external force to come and another thing to dive into. And I don't think that it's bad to get into new hobbies or collect, but it does seem like there is it does seem like she needs to talk to someone about and process these feelings more, because I don't know, I've had them and I see a therapist, and I think it can be very helpful. And I don't think it's anything to be shamed about, and and I don't think us saying it is meant to come across as bad. It's just like, genuinely, it could be very helpful for you, because your friends can't help you through everything, unfortunately.
Yes. And again, we're talking about Zaffer7 Love, for those of you who would like to go to her channel and offer her words of support.
Yeah.
That's what she needs more than anything, is words of support. But on my channel, I haven't been as good about doing it frequently, but I started doing these quick therapy bites, and I started trying to add more informational and advice content to my channel, because I do realize that there's a lot of psychology that goes along with being a collector. It's not simply just, I like K-pop, so I buy albums. There is another component that gets you out of being the casual observer and the casual participant in K-pop, and get you into the, I not only have a collection that I enjoy, but I am also now a person who has a channel dedicated to sharing my collection, and I now have a group of people who have expectations on me and my collecting life.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're a person who has any kind of underlying psychological issues that you haven't dealt with and you get involved with this, it is a lot.
Mm-hmm. And it manifests for different people in other ways. Like, my mom buys shoes. When she's sad, my mom will buy shoes. You know? My sister, purses. That's her vice. She'll always buy purses, you know?
And I have never been one to shit on people's coping mechanisms unless it's unhealthy.
Mm-hmm.
And buying K-pop has been a source of great joy to me. I still am an active buyer to this day, but I also have had times in my life where I really did have to reevaluate, is this comfort mechanism, this coping mechanism, something that I'm using because I'm avoiding approaching something else? And is this continued avoidance harming me? And it's making something that gives me joy be a tool for further harm. And I think that's something that it seems like she's grappling with, because she's saying how she feels like K-pop became her personality.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a really sad statement to make, because your personality is more than the things that you like and the things that you do. Your personality is your belief systems. Your personality is your humanity in a lot of ways, and how you express your humanity. And so to identify yourself and believe that the thing that lets other people know who you are is K-pop, that's really sad.
Mm-hmm.
And I say that in a way that's not an insult to her at all. I mean, like, that you believe that about yourself is sad.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of the words being used in the video were like lazy. She uses lazy a lot. And I think part of it is English being a second language, because I think at one point she wanted to use the word procrastination, but it didn't quite come out. But what she was talking about did not sound to me like laziness. It very much sounded to me like depression.
Well, there was that one part where she mentioned that she was just like, sometimes she feels too lazy to get out of bed to go find something to eat. And that was the real red flag, is it's like, oh, no, this is a, you know, she's got a mental disorder, and that's serious, and let's treat it seriously.
Yeah, and again, I'm not a therapist, I'm not a psychiatrist, I'm not intending to diagnose anybody, and I can only speak from my personal experience, as can Mason, so please don't take this as an assumption that we're saying she has something. We're just saying this is how it comes across in viewing. But it does seem to me like it's more than just that. To identify yourself as either an inanimate object being your personality, or only something negative being your personality or character trait, that's not great, because people should have some positive opinion about themselves, or should have something about themselves that they find unique or interesting or just them, because that is a part of being a person, is the fact that you view the world out of only your set of eyes. So you should believe that you have something unique, because you're experiencing your life through one vision. And if that's all you see of yourself, it makes it really harder to maintain your life. If you don't see your life having any other value to it. And that is what is very concerning to me. That, coupled with the fact that during the video she gets very emotional, like she cries, and said that prior to showing the video on her channel, she had cried trying to film it. So those are things that, to me, they're not something I'm joking about. They're not something that either one of us are joking about. It's something that definitely needs to be taken seriously. And I wonder how many people that are a part of the community are feeling much the same way. But one thing that jumped out to me that I kind of felt I had a difference of opinion about was the catalyst for collecting other groups, and kind of how she feels she can stop her collection. There, at one point she said that a lot of the collecting of certain groups that she wasn't necessarily into were prompted by friends of hers collecting these groups. And she mentioned, like she really got into Infinite because a lot of her friends were into Infinite. And just to nip it in the bud, she does say Carolyn by name. She refers to her as May, but she says specifically she did not get into Infinite because of May, Carolyn. That it was a lot of people that were into Infinite. And to be fair, at that time, Infinite was one of the top groups in second gen. So this is not an anomaly. They were very popular at that time. But then she mentioned Golden Child and how Golden Child is a group that she's not as fond of. And I want to say she mentioned Katie specifically in that section, but I could be wrong.
I don't remember that.
Probably not. I'm probably wrong. I'm probably getting things mixed up in my mind. But she was saying how like she likes Golden Child, but because of her friendships and peer pressure and YouTube pressure, she would buy multiple versions of Golden Child. And one thing she said that I thought was a really cute comment, and I feel like more people should use, like, I like Golden Child, but I don't multiple versions like Golden Child. Like, that is actually pretty cute.
It's very accurate for K-pop, for sure.
Oh, absolutely. Like, honestly, that should be like a Twitter thing. Like, do I like you, or do I multiple versions like you? Do I merchandise like you? Do I concert ticket like you? Do I P1 like you?
Well, I will say there are groups that I have gone to concerts for, but I don't have many albums for.
Really? Well, okay, to be fair, you live in LA.
That's true, but also sometimes it's just like, I just like going to concerts, and I'm like, I like 17, and I like their music enough, but I don't have a lot of their albums, but I went to 17 concert and had a great time,
I would not fly to another city to see 17. Like, I would not have flown
but they're in the area.
Yeah, I would not have flown to LA to see anyone but a fave. Rain is my ultimate male solo bias, so it was worth it to me. But, like, if you were like, oh, and K-pop Music Festival is going to have, AB6 and Gravity, I'd be like, well, I will pass.
Maybe next year.
We're not laughing at anybody. I'm just saying, like, contextually, it's a lot of effort to put forward to somebody that I'm not super into.
Right.
Yeah, and, like, when you're buying a concert ticket, too, like, the difference between buying VIP to see CL versus maybe buying standing room to go see a smaller group that you don't really care as much about. So, yeah, like, I like you concert, or I like you P1 seat concert. That's a thing.
Yeah.
That's a thing. But she said that one of the things that she felt is helping her with not feeling bad about collecting, helping her not feel as bad about, or helping her to ease off on the buying of K-pop, is that she stands a lot of second gen groups, and a lot of her groups are disbanding. They are not releasing as often, and things are really slowing down. And one of the things she said is, I hope that more of the groups I like disband or stop releasing material. And before you jump at her, it's not her attacking the group. She's saying, if they don't release material, then I won't have anything to buy. So it would be better for me if they don't release things that I then feel a need to collect. And, we all have a head in our mind, I wish somebody would just die. I'm not saying I want her to die. I'm not saying that. But, like, have you ever had somebody who just, like, really pissed you off to the point of, like, I wish that you just would drive off a cliff?
Yeah, my middle school bully probably.
Yeah. And you don't mean that, really. But you are like, I just wish that this thing would be over so I don't have to deal with it anymore. I feel like that's what she meant when she said maybe more of them will disband or go inactive. It's not that you don't want them to release music because you don't like their music, or you don't want them to have careers because you hate them. It's more like, I can't deal with this anymore, so it would be easier for me if you were to stop so that I don't have to deal with this. So that's where I'm coming from. Because, like, I will admit something that I'm not proud of. When me and my husband broke up, there were a lot of times after he would drop my daughter off from having visitation that I'd be like, I wish that he would just drive into the night and never return. Because I was angry, and I was tired of dealing with my divorce, and I was tired of dealing with custody, and I was frustrated, and I just thought it would be easier if he just didn't exist anymore. But had that really happened, I would have felt hella guilty. It would have impacted my child's life in a very negative way because she loves her dad and he loves her.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't mean it, but I was so fed up with my situation that seemed like the easiest way to stop everything that I was frustrated with.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I meant when I said, have you ever wanted somebody to die? I don't really want that to happen, but in my mind it's like it's easier if you just don't exist anymore. And I feel like maybe that's where she's going with it.
Sorry, I don't know how to respond to that.
No, you don't have to respond to that. I just took a break because I was thinking to myself, and I don't think that will help.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, yes, in the short term, it absolutely will help. It will absolutely help if you have less things on your to-do list, less things you're checking off of this will complete that collection list.
I think that it's become a weird idea of like, oh, I just won't collect any more new groups. And it's like, I don't think that should be a rule for you, because if you like it, K-pop's always changing. If there's a new group that comes out, why not? You know? I do think there's other ways to limit your buying though. I've mentioned this on my channel, but my new rule is there's a few groups that are on my pre-order list. They have reserved a spot in my wallet. I'll pre-order pretty much anything that they do. The two current groups, I would say the top two groups that I have are Red Velvet and ITZY. And I don't even know why I stan ITZY as much as I do. I just really love everything that they've done.
That's
Anyways.
all that matters. And Blackpink is about to be added to that list, really. Let's be honest with each other.
Yeah, they already are.
Yeah.
But I really like everything they've done. But my rule now is I have to wait 2 weeks, at least 2 weeks until after releases come out to see how I feel about it. Because I think there's a lot of releases where you're like, ooh, I really like that title track. Or I really like this album. And then a few weeks go by and you're like, I haven't listened to that. A good example is I really liked April's last release. I thought the album was really good. I thought La La Lee La La La, while it was a tongue twister of a title, I thought it was a great song.
That was the title?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't check for April at all, but what a horrible title for a song.
It was a bop though. I'm not gonna lie. That song's pretty great.
I would have just named it the Lolly song or something.
I'm not DSP. They make a lot of weird choices.
True.
But I was like, I kind of want to get it, but then I did my 2 week wait and I don't really want it anymore because I don't listen to it as much. Still a good song, and I still like it, but not as much. Whereas, Oh My Girl's album came out, and I was like, I don't know how I feel about this song. It's maybe not for me. That album's been out for like a month or two now, and I just bought it because I was like, I can't stop listening to it. I said I didn't like it, and then like a week later, it got on my playlist, and it hasn't left my playlist in a month. And I was like, I gotta get the album because the album's good. I also think another thing is really make sure you like the album, not just the song. I will say one thing that was in her video that I thought was interesting was she would say, I'd buy an album because I like the song, and I wasn't sure if that was a language barrier thing and she really meant album, or if she meant, oh, I like the title track, so I bought the album. But there's a lot of albums where I like the title track, but I don't like the album. So
yes.
Really make sure that you buy because you like the full package, you know. Like, I have to like a certain amount of songs on an album because there's very few albums that have no skips. So I have to like a certain amount of songs on an album, you know. Like
I need to like at least 3 songs if it's a mini. If it's an album, I need to like at least 5.
Yep. Like, I would say ITZY's new album, the Wannabe one, I think there's one song in there I don't like, but I like the other 6 a lot. So it was worth the buy, you know. Same with Oh My Girl's new album. I like 3 of like the 5 or 6 a lot. Mm-hmm. So it's like, these have been on my playlist, this is worth the buy.
Yeah. But I mean, I have automatics just like you have. Like SHINee, they could literally release an album of them reading the phone book and I would buy it because I'm like, well, I do collect SHINee. And that would be the only justification I would have. I wouldn't have any other excuse other than, well, I do collect SHINee. And then, you know, with BTS, honestly, after this last release, I've really reevaluated where my collecting is going to go for them. Normally, I buy every version of the album when it comes out. This time, I bought 2 out of 4. part of it was expense, but the other part of it was I didn't really think that this album warranted buying multiple versions. And that's just the way I'm collecting. That's just the way he's collecting. You don't have to live by the same rules that we are. But if one liking one song is causing you to buy an album, and then by having that one album, it makes you feel the need to complete a collection, already you're identifying what the catalyst is for future problems. If you know that that's how it goes, if it goes with, okay, well, I did buy the debut album for this group because I liked this song, and then they have another album coming out, and I would hate to have the one album and not have the second one because it's so easy just to go ahead and start collecting them that I'm going to get it. Then all of a sudden it becomes something that has moved past your original intentions, and it's moved past an area that you can control anymore. And one thing that I noticed too in the video, and I talked to Mason about it, it seems very much like she has a hard time identifying, at least it came across to me, hard time identifying how she actually feels about a lot of things. And so she has done some stuff and then later on evaluated how she's felt about it, but kind of is still unsure. For instance, the sports thing. Even though she gave up sports in high school, and it's been a long time that she's been on the platform, she's still questioning, do I actually not like sports? Or do I like sports, but I'm just lazy? And if you have a personality type where you aren't sure how you feel, K-pop collecting is a very poor place to focus your energies. You really do need to be sure how you feel, because there is so much you can't do once you decide to spend your money on K-pop unless you have a very healthy income and you can afford to splurge.
Yes, and the resale market for a lot of the groups too gets watered down after a certain amount of time. You know, I have a lot of albums that I would like to get rid of, and I know Sam does too, but who wants to buy this Random Lovelies album right now? You know, how many people?
I have 2 boxes of albums, which Mason had a chance to go through while he's been here. 2 full boxes of albums, plus a smaller box full of tchotchkes and knickknacks and the like. I need to get rid of them. But there are some things in there that I don't think that anyone would buy except for the mother of that artist. And even then, she's probably got a box of them sitting in the closet at the house. And, you know, it's things that I've held on to far past their expiration date. Like, there are certain groups that the market for selling their items would have been between a year or 2 after that album came out. And after that, the group disbanded. They were already not a very popular group, so nobody wants to buy it.
Right.
You know? And so it is very hard to start to get rid of your collection because it comes to a point where it's not going to go anywhere. It's never going to go anywhere because nobody wants it. But I think in the conversation that she was having, she mentioned that some of the smaller groups that don't have big fan bases, that haven't been active for a long time, she doesn't feel like she can sell because she doesn't think that anybody would buy it. And I'm not saying that she's being disingenuous about that, but that too could be used as another excuse as to why I better hold on to this. You know? And so, yeah, if you get into that uncontrollable spending and you start buying things that later on you change your mind, but the market's no longer there, you're stuck with these things. And you don't want to be in that position because it's a really terrible position to be in because it represents missed opportunities. Even if it brought you pleasure with that first time you held it in your hand, later on it does represent this could have been money converted into something else. And that sometimes stings. Another thing that she mentioned in the video was, I'm sorry, I was thinking about Afghan from Theory of Love. I don't know why they popped into my mind just then, but all of a sudden the Instagram account. I know the Instagram account for Afghan was just playing in my mind, and I kept thinking, Tumshil. Anyway, sorry, I'm totally off base here. One of the things she mentioned about her collection too was that she was going to start selling some groups. She said she was going to sell AV6 and she was going to sell
MXM.
And that represents probably at its height maybe 5 or 6 albums, not a ton of albums. It could be more. It might be even 10 albums. But Corona has limited her ability to sell albums, photo cards, things like that. Listen to me very closely here. Having this conversation right now with her is probably a direct result of coronavirus. There are a lot of us who are at home now when we would normally be out and living our lives and doing things in a normal way. And once our normal has been shook up, we are really looking at our lives and saying, what do I need to be changing here? There's been some things that haven't been working for a lot of us for a really long time. And we didn't confront it because we were busy and we were having to live life the way we always have.
Right.
And once Corona came and disrupted the normal, we were like, wow, there is an issue here. And I think that's something that is going to be a narrative for many more people as we go along. As more and more people are establishing their new normal, some of this kind of ultra consumerism you see in K-pop collecting is definitely going to be looked at with a side eye, because they're going to be saying, with all that's going on in the world, what am I really doing here? And am I doing this for me, or am I doing this for other people who at the end of the day, they're not here when I need somebody to talk to cry to hold, to reassure me that things are going to be okay. So I really do feel like, had it not been for coronavirus, I don't know if we would have ever seen this video from her.
Right.
And I mean, that's good that she's in a position to look at things, but it's sad that it takes a situation like this to get people to that point, because I honestly do think that another cause for so many people burning out so quick on K-pop YouTube is they can't live up to the expectation. And I mentioned that earlier when I started talking about it, but do you guys know what the expectation is? Because from 2 people who actually post, we can tell you what the expectation is. So Mason buys an album and he goes on his channel and he talks about how he really likes this picture and he thinks this photo card is nice and he likes that album. And back when he was posting more frequently, you might have somebody in the comments say, so you don't like this other group? I've never seen you unbox on your channel. Do you not like them?
People want you to buy everything and say positive things about everything. That's the expectation.
And that's not real. You can't do that. Like, I'm sorry, even if it's something as basic as, I don't like the color green. I wish they'd gone with a different color for the album cover. Oh, so you're being a hater because you don't like them. No, I'm saying that I think green would have been better. You know, and that kind of expectation that everything you say has got to please every person that comes across your channel. There are some people who are fairly big YouTubers right now in the unboxing community. Hell, I'm just going to say it by name. Katie, I'm talking about you. And I'm not talking mean about you, but I'm going to say you by name. That their comment section is a dumpster fire at times. Where people are like, you could be talking about, I love SHINee. Bitch, how come you don't collect twice? I never mentioned twice. I'm not talking about them currently. I'm saying very positive things about this other group who I like very much, and I've established that I like very much, and they're not even on the same label with Twice. Why is this energy coming to me right now in this moment? That is a lot of the pressure that you face as a YouTuber that people don't see and people don't internalize because it's not them. But that is impossible to meet their expectation. What do you want me to, what am I supposed to do? What do you want me to do? I'm not even talking about them. Is it not even good enough that I just don't talk about them? It has to be, if you don't talk about them, you hate them? That's terrible. And then if it's that, it's also if you're known to love a group and for some reason, even though you love this group, maybe you don't agree with the concept, or maybe this wasn't their strongest title song. Then the stans of that group who come to you for content because they know you're a stan, all of a sudden, this was a bad take.
I've also seen people on Carolyn's channel too be like, why are you even trying to trade for, you know, Jin's card? That's a perfectly good sugar card. You should be so lucky that you got a Suga card. How dare you? That's so rude to Suga. How would he feel if you knew you were trading him for Jin? I don't know if those are her biases or what, but I've seen
Jin
stuff
is
like
her
that
bias
too.
for BTS.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you got that right. And again, I'm not throwing the album away. I'm not saying this member is a less valuable member. All I'm saying is, I have said before, this is my bias in this group. I am actively collecting my biases items rather than spending extra money and buying a photo card on top of the album. I'm willing to trade with somebody who maybe their bias is Suga, and I would like to give them what they like and me get what I like. No harm, no foul. No one's losing any money here.
Right.
But that becomes, oh, you're a hater. How can anyone win? But if you announce yourself as a company stan, that is when you really get it. Like when you identify, I am a YG stan, or I'm a JYP stan, or I'm an SM stan, it gets even worse because every single thing that happens with that company that you stan, people then jump in your mentions, jump in your comments talking about, oh, so how do you feel about such and such since you're a stan of that company? And it's like, okay, well, I'm an SM stan, but that doesn't mean that, like, if Isuman was to come into town, I'd take him out for a meal. If anything, I would kick his ass.
Where are the demos?
Right. So, like, honestly, I'm an SM stan, but at least Isuman needs to hope that he never sees me in a dark alley. Because I'm ready to scrap. Like, I told you about how at the Super M concert, I saw him outside the venue.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I was trying to get the people around me to confirm it because I didn't want to attack him until I knew for sure it was him. And I couldn't get anybody to agree with me. Like, no, that's just some random old Korean man. Right after I leave, like, oh, Isuman was in the audience. I saw that motherfucker outside the vendor. I had my chance. But no one would support me. I'm asking for bail money here, guys. Come on. I really could. I could have run up on a bitch. But I'm going away from the topic. But being an SM stan for me is not that I cap for SM as a company. If anything, being an SM stan makes me one of the most critical people in the room. Because I know the history of the company. I know the dirty shit they've done over the years. I know what they're capable of and what they're refusing to do, even though they're capable of doing it. And so I'm the first one when there's a scandal that breaks out, or when tragedy strikes, or when something doesn't go to plan, that I'm like, this is where SM fucked up. Or sometimes when things don't go to the fans' expectation, I'm like, this is actually where SM really couldn't do anything about that. And people will be like, you are super biased and you are this, that, the other, and they will just come at you. And it's, again, you can't please everybody. No matter how many times you try to clarify your position, give your disclaimers, everything else, people don't want to hear it. They will not take it in. It's just white noise to them so they can get their hot take across. And that gets exhausting. The worst of it, though, is when you love you love something and you express disappointment, and then it feels like the world tries to dogpile you about expressing that disappointment. The first album I ever unboxed for BTS was Oh Are You Late Too. I unboxed that before Dark and Wild came out. Dark and Wild was the first BTS album I ever pre-ordered. I've been unboxing BTS albums on my channel for years. And when I gave my opinion about Suga and the Jim Jones sample, and then I gave my opinion about how BTS really needs to donate to the cause because so much of Black culture has influenced their music and there are so many Black fans, those are my two most disliked videos on my entire channel to this day. And I mean out throughout the history of my entire channel. And I know I've said some things way worse than that, but that has been it. And I'm going to be honest and say that it takes the flower off the bloom for me. I kind of hate that I don't feel comfortable talking about people I should be comfortable about talking about because I'm worried about their fandom attacking me over a criticism that's valid to make. over lies that are actively being told about subjects. Like, the whole thing was, oh, well, he did the Jim Jones sample because Jim Jones is a noted hater of South Korea, and so he was making fun of him because he's such a bad person, when in actuality that wasn't it at all. Even the record label admitted, we didn't know who the fuck this was. We just did it because it sounded cool. We didn't double check, and so a mistake was made. But when you have to come across that kind of shit and those kind of, you know, fiery takes and, you know, criticism and everything else from people, you get to a point where, like, even though I like BTS, I kind of don't want to talk about them.
Right.
Because I don't want to hear your mouth about it. And that's really shitty. That's really shitty that that's where the platform is moving. So, to take it back to Tundi and keep the focus where the focus probably should be in terms of what she's done, I find it very brave of you to talk about this. Even if I disagreed with certain things, or if I felt like there was more to the situation than what you were talking about, I find it very brave to do it, because how many creators that have been doing this for as long as she has are willing to kind of lift the veil and take you guys behind the curtain and see what's really going on. That takes a lot. And when your entire platform is built on collecting, and you're saying, I can't collect anymore, I can only imagine her wondering, will the audience that watches me still want to follow me once they realize I'm not the person that they have assigned traits to? And that is what keeps a lot of people doing things they wouldn't normally do, because of their fear of losing something that they've either known for so long, or letting down people who have so many expectations of you. And all I can say to that is, if people like you, and they like more than just the albums you get or the hauls that you make, if they like you, they will stay. And I don't have to say it in words, but I'm choosing to say it in words. But without me saying it in words, look at my channel. Because I'm not the Shallow 360 that you met in 2014. And I haven't been for a very long time. And there's still people watching. Currently, I have 32 people watching the live stream as we're speaking. There are still people watching. There are still people listening. There are still people who believe that the things that I have to say, that my personality and the other shit that I do is valuable enough for them to tune in. And while if I lost all the subscribers, I could still live my life, because this is not the measure of me. The fact that I am still coming here and I am still talking to you about these things, and there is still an audience, is proof that you can be yourself, and there's still going to be people who know you for who you are and still want to engage with your content. So trying to be the image of what you think people think you are, that benefits nobody. Because everything comes out in the light. You know, people are seeing Jeffree Star for who he is now, Shane Dawson for who he is now. So many other people in this whole Carmageddon shit are being seen for who they really are. And the facades that they tried to put up in order to keep their subscribers happy and their audiences happy are now turning around to be the weapon against them, in terms of what they're doing, how they're doing things, how they've conducted themselves, how fake they have been. So being afraid that you're going to lose your audience, please don't be afraid, because your real audience is going to still be checking in on you. Hell, Mason's channel has almost completely changed.
I was going to say, I'm like, I do very few K-pop videos now, because I don't buy as much. So I usually wait till I have a decent amount to even show. Because I started out just straight out unboxing too. I did that fucking bullshit where I would hold up the album like this, you know? Which was dumb. No one liked that. That was dumb.
It wasn't dumb. It was just before we knew that like maybe a tripod would work out.
Maybe
better.
yeah. But now my channel is pretty much only for Sam and I's little show, Busy Thinking About Boys Love. In fact, I really have been thinking and probably should change my channel name because MB Pop 1997 doesn't talk about K-pop. So we're a Boys Love channel. I should change it to something Boys Love related, you know? So yeah, but people still watch and I did lose subscribers, but then I gained a lot of new subscribers from it as well. So the ones that I lost, I ended up gaining back in new people that checked me out.
Yeah.
Checked us both out.
And, you know, I'm always going to be Shallow 360. Like, that's not going to change. One, because it comes out of my mouth before I even think about it at this point, so I don't know how to change it. But two, like, it wouldn't matter what we were talking about here. SHINee is foundational to what I do and why I do it. So, I mean, my very first video on this channel, I was talking about what it was like to be a SHINee fan fiction author. So, day one, it's always been about those 5 boys. But as I talk about more things, I have become very fearless about what content I choose to put on this channel. I used to look at the views and would use the views to inform me as to like what content do people like, what should I talk more about, what's popular. I don't do that anymore. I don't do that anymore because I'm not going to change what I'm talking about, so why do the views even matter at this point? I'm still going to talk about the thing that I was interested in to begin with. But again, it's about having faith in other people that they're going to continue to watch, but it's also having faith in yourself that you're enough. And that is a very hard thing to have. This new internet age, this social media age, it does everything it can to reinforce that you're not enough and that somebody's better than you at everything that you ever thought you might have a talent at.
Yeah, I'm on art Twitter and Instagram too, because I work in animation for a living, and it can be really sad, honestly.
Yeah. And so with the internet working against you and culture working against you, it is very easy to believe you are nothing more than your content. You have to believe that you are more. You really do have to believe in you. You have to do this as if you'll never make a penny, as if no one is watching, as if this is all just for you. And when you are able to convert your mind into believing that this is all just for you, it becomes a lot easier to do. Like, honestly, we've talked about this before. Saturday is one of my favorite days of the week now. Because Saturday is the day that me and Mason film Busy Thinking About Boys. And I love that because I've been watching Boys Love throughout the week to get ready to watch the show. And I've been having conversations with you here and there about what did you think of this? Or oh my gosh, did you see this scene? Or I'm sending a screenshot. And by the time we get to Saturday, I am filled to the brim with opinions and discussion points and all of this stuff.
Yeah. I think what's also good about it too, it's like, I think we're both respectful if we disagree, because we don't agree on everything.
No, we don't. Like our Where Our Eyes Linger discussion was really a tale of two cities.
Honestly, same with Given. It was like
that was very much a tale of two cities.
Yeah.
I'm so 90. Meanwhile, speaks to my soul.
I'm like, it really says something, and you were like, I don't know, it was whatever.
I was a shit.
No, you weren't. It's okay if you didn't like it.
I know, but it's still, it was kind of funny. But I say all that to say, like, again, it's something that is totally outside of what we were both doing prior to doing this show. But it's something that we enjoy devoting the time to. It's something that we love, studying and really challenging our minds about before we even get in front of each other, because it's worth it to us. Even if the views aren't there, it's something that we are proud of. Like Given, we watched Given. I watched it on your recommendation. We had the discussion about Given. It was a very vulnerable video for you. And it didn't get the views that our other videos have received. However, I don't know about you, I am very proud of that discussion.
I think I feel a weird way about it because I think I got too personal and I just cringe thinking about it. But I do think it was a good discussion in the sense that we had two fairly different opinions on a show, and I thought it was still a respectable discussion. And also, I felt like it was good because neither of us work in live action, but I work in animation, and I feel like we finally had like some authority to talk about the actual medium a little bit more, and I thought that was nice.
So I don't regret any of the conversations we've had. I don't regret any of the videos we did. I don't regret my absolutely shitty appearance on a lot of these things, because at the end of the day, the discussion that we had was a valid discussion. It was something that I felt good about. These are videos that I go back and I watch after we're done with them. And Mason doesn't because he hates the sound of his voice, but I do. I do. And sometimes I'm like, oh man, I wish I had thought about this, or I wish I had thought about that. But for the most part, I'm really excited and engaged in the content. And if we get more subscribers behind the content, that would be amazing as well. But I don't even need them because I just love doing this. And that is what this should be for you if you're going to make this, if you're going to make a go of this. You know,
we're doing it because we think we're funny. And we think we have good opinions. And we don't get a lot of comments, but the ones that we do, I will say, we do get comments. They're usually extremely thought out and very engaging. So if you do comment on our videos, thank you, because definitely people that comment have definitely proved that they watch the content too.
Oh, absolutely.
And aren't stopping halfway through, but they've watched the whole 2-hour fucking critique of whatever we're talking about.
Right, and we're talking for a long time, and you're still hanging out with us? That's amazing.
Yeah.
But, for me, for this channel, this has become a thing where I get on my channel and I do live streams because this is a way for me to unleash thoughts and feelings and opinions and, a place where I let it go for me so that it's out there in the ether and then I can move on in some ways. Like, we watched the Zaffer 7 video, you read Carolyn's thread, and then almost immediately afterward, we started doing a live stream.
Right. Well, it's nice to, in some ways, kind of just scream into the void, because I think there's definitely a difference between texting someone your opinion and then verbally saying it, because I feel like once you verbally say something, it puts a button on that, but like, there's times where we'll text about a show we're watching, but we'll bring it up again in a actual conversation, in like a phone call or a stream together, because it feels like you need to fully button that up,
Like, it needs to be expounded upon, and it needs to have things that text doesn't have. It needs to have, tone of voice. It needs to have extra content. It needs to have more characters. Whatever it takes to get it fully across, that needs to be added to it. And so that's the way that this is for me. I tweet every once in a while, but anybody that follows me on Twitter will know I am good for the retweet. I'm good for the retweet. I'm good for the like. But I don't really do original tweets all that much, because this is where I choose to talk.
Man, I'm different. I tweet a lot.
You do.
I tweet a lot. Because every time I tweet, I'm thinking, this is it. I'm hilarious. And this is going to be the one. And then I've realized, oh, my Twitter's private.
Right. And you're like, I like you.
Man, I will say, speaking of like regret when it comes to our videos and forgetting to say things, I'm already regretting that we didn't say some jokes that we had said earlier about Love by Chance. Like, we didn't talk about how we thought Can looks like he doesn't wash his booty. Like, that was a good joke.
That was a good joke, but we forgot to include it.
We forgot to mention it.
Now, well. But yeah, not trying to do a big plug on our other show. I hope you didn't. That wasn't the intent at all. It's basically just, we wanted to have the discussion about motivation, because you have to find a way to make this worth it for you. And the minute it stops being worth it for you, move on.
There's no shame in that.
None at all. You've given it a good run, and if it no longer brings value to your life, if it no longer makes you feel happy, one of the things she said was about how your brain processes the purchasing of K-pop, which I kind of disagree with, but to each their own. I'm not a psychology major, so I can't validate or invalidate what she's saying. She said that when you get your first maybe 50 albums, that adrenaline rush and the way you feel about it is massive, and you feel like, I've done a great thing, this is amazing, I'm so excited, I'm hitting it on all cylinders. But then when you get to 100, it starts to taper off a little bit, and then you get to 200 and it tapers off a little bit, and the more albums you get, the more that excitement and that feeling starts to evaporate. Mm-hmm. And that to your brain, it's not, oh, I'm getting this Sistar album and it's their fourth comeback and it's got this song that I really like. Instead, your brain is saying, another CD, mm-hmm. to the pile of maybe 1,000 CDs you have. And I sort of disagree with that, only because I know for me personally, I don't even think about how many CDs I already have when I'm unboxing something. Mm-hmm. I really don't. Like, when I get something in the mail, I'm like, it is about this thing that's in front of me right here. Mm-hmm. I only start to think about my collection when it's time to put it on a shelf, and I'm like, where the hell am I going to put this thing? Mm. But before that, it is its own thing, and it has its own set of opinions and thoughts and value to me, completely outside of what's going on over there. But if that's really the way that she's interpreting things, all the more reason to put a dead stop to it. Mm-hmm. Because even giving yourself the rules of, well, I'm only going to buy if I love the song, mm-hmm. or I'm only going to buy because it's my fave. If what you're saying is true about it's just another CD, then it doesn't matter who it's by.
Right.
It's still going to have that same continuous decline in value, decline in excitement, decline in feeding something in you that needs to be fed by attaining items. Mm-hmm. So if that's really the truth, then it makes sense to divorce yourself from it, full stop. Mm-hmm. But I get why you can't. I really do. She mentions addiction. Like, she says the word addiction. And I sometimes really hate the word addiction, because whenever you say addiction, it automatically has negative connotations. People think drugs, people think drink, people think sex, people think gambling. They think all of these negative things when it comes to addiction. But there are people who have relatively innocent addictions that are ruining their lives. And when you have something as innocuous as, like, I buy a CD from time to time. Mm-hmm. That's my addiction. It doesn't sound that bad. I buy a shoe from time to time. I buy a bag from time to time. It doesn't seem that bad. But whatever it is that you're trying to cope with, that your addiction serves as kind of a stand-in for coping with it, that is what makes it not good for you. Mm-hmm. So it's not about what is your addiction, it's why do you have the addiction? Mm-hmm. And continuing to do things that are a part of that addiction, even if you don't do them very often, does that serve you in the long run? Mm-hmm. So saying, I have this rule now that I'm only going to buy A, B, C, and D, that's all well and good. But if we are actually talking about an addiction, it needs to be, I'm only not buying. Because once you try to tell yourself, well, it's just this once, it's just this once, it's just because of this comeback, it's just because of this thing, mm-hmm. it won't ever stop. And if your true desire is to stop the addiction, it has got to stop. Now, if you don't want to stop the addiction, that's your choice. But if you really do want to stop, you have to stop. Mm-hmm. Full stop. And I agree with the point. I know I haven't been reading the comments because we've been talking, but somebody mentioned just now about how booktubers go through the same thing. I think any genre, any avenue where it's not even just about what you're personally doing, but about how people perceive what you're personally doing, there's a lot. It is a very intense reward system. It's a very intense reward punishment system. Because, again, it's not just, oh, only K-pop collectors feel this way. It is
Mm-hmm.
it is anybody who is getting massive amounts of feedback from the public
Mm-hmm.
about something that is maybe personal to them. And so if that's the case, that you're getting something from exposing your life, but you're also coming away with negative feedback from exposing your life, how do you know when to stop?
Mm-hmm.
And that's the reason why very early on in the conversation I said I really think a therapist, a psychiatrist, a psychologist, a counselor, somebody is necessary, because it is something that it's not for a person untrained to deal with. And to be honest, even people who are professional therapists and counselors, they don't do this by themselves.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I know a lot of therapists who have therapists.
Yeah.
Because sometimes if you're in the midst of it, how can you pull yourself out of it?
Right.
So I stand by that as like the final piece of advice for sure is find somebody to talk to who is a professional, who can help you work through not just this, but everything that this is a byproduct of, everything that this has managed to affect with your life, and everything that this is maybe a stand-in for that really needs to be examined under a harsh light.
Mm-hmm.
Because it is real. It is real. And because it is real, it needs to be treated like it's real.
And it'll be tough work to do so.
Absolutely. I cannot begin to imagine the pain associated with dismantling a large collection.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, as collectors, we joke all the time about like, oh, if my house is burning, what thing would I save?
Mm-hmm.
But we also think like, I hope that never comes up because I really can't choose because I want to save everything, you know?
Right.
But if you had to get rid of your collection to save yourself, could you do it?
Mm-hmm.
And for some of us collectors, that answer is not always yes.
Mm-hmm.
And when that answer is not yes, you gotta kind of ask yourself, why isn't it yes?
Mm-hmm.
And that's not an answer I can give anybody because that's your personal answer.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that we've talked about it as much as I can personally talk about it right now. I mean, her video was 30 minutes long, and here we are closing in on an hour. And
Mm-hmm.
Mason's hardly said anything. I've just been yapping away, and he's like, yep, I mean, I feel like a rapper.
You are very well spoken in how you deliver things.
Thank
You explain stuff good.
Thank you. I feel so special. I feel so
Special.
special. That is the reason why I'm buying Twice albums, y'all. That right there, because
You make me feel special.
positive feedback. But yeah, I feel like the Migos. I feel like as soon as I do a verse, I have somebody in the background giving the ad libs, and I love it. But yeah, thank you guys for watching this. And again, be as respectful as possible. If you leave a comment, if you go to Zap for 7 Love's channel, please leave her positive feedback as well. Encourage her. Let her know that her value extends beyond the collecting, because that is absolutely true, because she is a fellow human being and she has a value beyond what she collects, what she wears, what she looks like, anything corporal. She has a value beyond that. But also, if any of this happens to apply to anybody that's watching this, not just her, I'm not a therapist, I'm not a psychiatrist, psychologist, any of that type of stuff. I'm just another human being out here trying to live my life. But my DMs are open, and I definitely hope that I can help you get to a place that's maybe a more positive place if you're experiencing some negativity related to K-pop collecting or just being a part of this community. Because if nothing else, this should be fun.
Mm-hmm.
Even if it's not, it should be fun.
Mm-hmm.
And if it's not fun, then that needs to change.
Mm-hmm.
Something's got to change.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, thank you guys so much. I really, really appreciate you. I'm wishing the best for you at all times, and I will talk to you later. And you will see us later because you will be uploading our conversation from today on Monday. So, bye, guys.
Bye.